Listen, there's an undiscovered planet lurking in our solar system right now. And I'm not talking about some conspiracy theory. I'm talking about real science that's been building for over 100 years. Somewhere on the distant edge of our solar system, so far from Earth that we can't even see it with our most powerful telescopes, lies a mystery that scientists have been chasing for generations. This is Planet 9, a massive, solid ball of ice and rock that's at least double the size of Earth and maybe up to 6 times heavier. The orbit is so incredibly long that it would take Planet 9 up to 15,000 years just to complete one cycle around the Sun. Even a very large object would be almost impossible to detect out there. We've been fooled into thinking that we already know everything about our own solar system, but the truth is, we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more out there that we don't understand. Let me take you back to where this all begins. It starts with Uranus. The 7th planet from the Sun was first discovered by a guy named William Herschel back in 1781, using a homemade telescope in his backyard. The crazy thing is, he wasn't even looking for new planets. He was looking for comets. That's what he thought Uranus was at first, until it turned out to be something much, much bigger. That's one way to discover a new planet, by complete accident. But obviously, this isn't exactly a repeatable method you can use over and over again. Now here's something interesting. Herschel wasn't the first person to actually see Uranus. It had been appearing on star charts for decades at this point. It was just so faint and moving so slowly across the sky that no one had really noticed it before or realized what they were looking at. But as scientists continued to track the orbit of Uranus over the following years, they started to notice something very strange. At certain points along its path around the Sun, the planet would mysteriously speed up or slow down, almost as if something invisible was pulling on it from the outside. Some external force has to be influencing them to behave that way. So the question became, what exactly is perturbing Uranus? What's pulling on it? To find out, we move ahead to the year 1846. A pair of brilliant astronomers named Urban Leverrier and John Couch Adams determined that there must be an undiscovered planet somewhere in the outer solar system that's responsible for the odd behavior they're seeing with Uranus. And here's where it gets really impressive. They used the science of orbital mechanics and good old-fashioned mathematics to calculate exactly where that mystery planet must be located in the sky. So over in Germany, another astronomer named Johann Galle decided to point his telescope right where this new planet was predicted to be based on these calculations. And get this, within just a few hours of looking for it, he spots Neptune, the 8th planet from the Sun, for the very first time in human history. Once that discovery was made, people got the idea that using math was actually a much better way to find new planets than just randomly pointing a telescope up at the sky and hoping to see something important. And guess what? They found one, this time in the orbit of Neptune itself. It appeared to have a little bit of a wobble to it. In the year 1930, with the discovery of Pluto, the object formerly known as the 9th planet from the Sun, before it got downgraded to a dwarf planet. Now this is where we need to talk about something called observational bias. They went looking for a new planet beyond Neptune. They found something out there. Pluto is a highly reflective object, so it appears big and bright when you look at it through a powerful telescope, but it's actually very small. Tiny compared to what they expected, and it wouldn't be anywhere near massive enough to actually influence the orbit of Neptune the way they thought. But that discovery didn't stop the hunt for new planets. It just meant that astronomers would have to work a lot harder and be a lot more careful to try and find one. And that's where we are right now. In the last 3 decades, there's been an absolute flood of new discoveries made in the deep solar system, a region that we know as the Kuiper Belt. This is where Pluto is located. But it's also home to an incredibly large amount of other ice and rock structures floating around out there. For a sense of scale here, listen to this. There are probably thousands of Pluto-sized objects in the Kuiper Belt. We've identified a handful of them so far, but most are still undiscovered. And then, there are at least 100 billion other objects out there that measure at least 1 kilometer across. Now, the location of our suspected Planet 9 is far beyond the Kuiper Belt. But if it is out there like scientists think, then we should be able to see the effect of this massive planet's gravity on distant Kuiper Belt objects. And that is exactly what 2 astronomers at the California Institute of Technology believe they discovered back in 2016. Mike Brown and Konstantin Batygin noticed a weird cluster of objects on the outer edge of the Kuiper Belt. They were all grouped together in this long, tilted orbit that didn't appear at all like a bunch of random stuff just spinning around the sun. It looked organized. It looked like some external force had been guiding these objects into a very specific alignment over billions of years. And the more Kuiper Belt objects that astronomers found, the more of these strange behaviors they began to notice. They found things that would orbit over and under the sun, instead of around the middle like normal planets. Things that would move in the complete opposite direction to every other orbiting body in the solar system. And just like back in the day with the discovery of Neptune, these scientists calculated that there must be one large source for all of this strange behavior they're observing. To figure this out, they used sophisticated computer simulations. They started with the solar system in a raw, chaotic state, as it would have been billions of years ago when the planets had newly formed. Then, they ran the simulation with two potential scenarios, one that includes Planet 9 and one that does not. Here's what they found. When Planet 9 is included in the simulation, all of the distant objects of the Kuiper Belt line up exactly with what we see today in the real solar system. The match is nearly perfect. So according to that study, there's something like a 99.6% certainty that Planet 9 actually does exist somewhere out there. Now, one thing that this simulation doesn't fully address is just how we ended up with one big planet stranded so far away from the sun in the first place. The whole reason that the Kuiper Belt exists is because there wasn't enough density of material out there to form a whole planet. This means that Planet 9 must have come from somewhere else entirely, and that somewhere could be a completely different solar system. This is what astronomers call a rogue planet. It's a planetary body that was ejected from its home star and ends up just floating through empty space between star systems. The gravity of our sun may have captured one of these rogue planets at some point billions of years ago as it drifted past. It's also possible that Planet 9 used to be much closer to the sun and began forming somewhere between Saturn and Neptune, but was kicked out by gravitational interactions before it had the chance to become another gas giant like Jupiter or Saturn. It wasn't kicked hard enough to go completely rogue and leave the solar system, so it just ended up stuck on the very edge of the sun's gravitational influence. In either case, Planet 9 itself would be an incredibly dense ball of rock, metal, and frozen material, like the core of a planet that never got the chance to fully form into something bigger. If you can imagine something being even more dead and frozen than Pluto, this would be it. A cold, dark world drifting alone in the darkness. Now here's the thing. For a planet that no one's actually seen before, we seem to know a whole lot about this thing, don't we? But if all this evidence points to it being real, then where is it? Why haven't we found it yet? Unfortunately, finding Planet 9 is not going to be anything like finding Neptune, which is already a really hard planet to see, even with modern telescopes. But the thing we're looking for could be more than 15 times further away than Neptune, and it would be smaller as well, and way less reflective because it doesn't have a vibrant gas-filled atmosphere like Neptune does. It's very likely that Planet 9 would be completely invisible to everything but the absolute largest and most powerful telescopes on Earth. And even with those massive telescopes, this is still a needle in a haystack situation. You're trying to find one dark object in an incomprehensibly huge area of space. Unless, of course, Planet 9 doesn't actually exist at all. Remember when we talked about observational bias earlier? The Caltech astronomers Brown and Batygin have been looking specifically for evidence of Planet 9 for years now, so naturally, that's what they found, or at least what they interpret the data as showing. But could there be other explanations for what they're seeing? Absolutely. And one of those potential scenarios is even more insane than a mystery planet. Some scientists think that there might be a very small black hole moving through our solar system, and its immense gravity is what's messing with the orbits of these distant objects. This would be something known as a primordial black hole. It's theorized to have formed right after the Big Bang at the very beginning of the universe, when dense pockets of matter started forming into the first stars. It's possible that the most dense regions actually skipped the star phase entirely and collapsed straight into black holes, and they've been touring around the universe ever since, for nearly 14 billion years. Now, if these primordial black holes even exist at all, we probably don't have one in our solar system. But just like Planet 9, the theory hasn't been proven wrong or right yet. We just don't know. A more simple and less dramatic explanation would be that gravity just works a little bit differently at these large distances from the Sun than we currently understand. And something that looks weird and unusual to us is actually just nature doing its thing the way it's supposed to. All of the predictions that we make about gravity and planetary orbits are still governed by the fundamental laws that were laid down by Sir Isaac Newton way back in the 17th century. But here's the thing. Newton had never seen anything that was further away from the Sun than the planet Saturn, so it's entirely possible he missed some stuff. His laws work perfectly for everything close to the Sun, but maybe they need some tweaking for the extreme outer edges of the solar system. We fool ourselves into thinking we know everything about the solar system just because we can see a lot of things that are relatively close to us. The inner planets, the asteroid belt, Jupiter, and Saturn. But the more we discover in the outer reaches, the more we realize just how much we don't know. It's humbling. But here's the exciting part. We're going to know a lot more very soon. This is the Vera Rubin Observatory in Chile. It is the most technologically advanced telescope on Earth right now. It has the biggest and highest resolution digital camera ever made for astronomy. And it's attached to a sophisticated motorized system that allows the telescope to capture an image of the entire visible night sky once every 3 days. The Vera Rubin Observatory started full operation for the first time in the summer of 2025, and its goal is to continue making these super high-resolution scans of the night sky over and over again for the next 10 years straight. So what we'll end up with is essentially a time-lapse video of everything in space that we can see from Earth. And as we create that video over the years, we won't need to go looking for weird objects anymore by pointing telescopes at specific spots in the sky. They'll make their own presence known in these observations. Anything that moves will stand out. Anything unusual will reveal itself. So we will definitely find things like new comets, interstellar objects passing through our solar system, and near-Earth asteroids that could potentially threaten our planet. And if there's a 9th planet out there hiding in the darkness, then we'll find that too. The truth is out there, and we're closer than ever to discovering it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel, and we'll see you in the next one.